Stephen. All
right.
Yeah.
Did you want me to start just off, or are you?
Yeah. You just start. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for having me tonight. I'm here, Stephen Bean, from Limestone Branch Distillery. I'm the master distiller over here, and we have 3 great whiskeys tonight. We have our Yellowstone Select, our Minor Case Rye, and then our 2022 Limited Edition. So just a little bit about Limestone Branch. My brother and I started that in 2011. That said, our family, goes back to the very beginning of the bourbon business in Kentucky, back to 1795 on my dad's side and 1836 on my mom's side. So, but we started in 2011, started making some bourbon, but a lot of pure spirits in the beginning, but it was always our goal to get bourbon. And one of the actually to get one of our old family brands back in Yellowstone was really the one that spoke to me, because it actually encompassed both sides of the family. So Yellowstone was actually founded by my mother's side, the Dance, and he had a distillery in 1856, and when they opened the park, they named the bourbon Yellowstone. But then the Beans joined shortly after as distillers, and were actually a Bean remained the distiller all the way up until the 1970s. So we were able to partner with Luxco, who had bought the brand, and in that deal, we brought Limestone Branch, or we brought Yellowstone to Limestone Branch, and that's when I formulated our Yellowstone Select, which is what we're going to taste here in just a minute. And Yellowstone Select is a blend of 4 and 7-year-old whiskey. It's a blend of ours and source whiskey from Luxco stocks. So it's a blend of both pot still and column still. This Limestone Branch, we have a pot still. We started out with a 600-gallon stripping still and 150-gallon finish still. We now have 1,000-gallon stripping still and a 600-gallon still. So, and we're making currently about 10 barrels a day.
Okay.
And that is why the Yellowstone Select is a blend, because we sell it nationwide, and we'd never be able to have enough stock to supply the demand for that with our own. So it's 93 proof. I chose 93 proof because I felt that was the best proof right out of the bottle to have neat. So with the nose, for me, it's Yellowstone is just a very classic Kentucky bourbon. You get the caramels and the vanillas. The 4-year-old, you get a little sweetness from the grain. Some of the grain notes still show through. And then the 7-year-old is going to give it, a little bit more depth, a little bit more in the mid and finish for the spirit. So,
hey, on the blend, just nosing it, is this a high rye mash blend?
We're on the cusp. So we are 13% rye. And I think, 15 is kind of considered, that's where high rye starts. So we're right there pretty close, but not a high rye.
Okay. But there, because I could definitely smell it.
Yeah. And, a little bit of that comes from the 4-year-old too. So, because 4-year-old is going to give you a little bit more grain notes to come through than an older whiskey would.
Yeah, that's true. A little green note to it because it's so young.
So, Stephen, are you eventually going to be 100% house distilled, your core expression?
Probably not in the Select, just because right now Yellowstone Select's one of the fastest growing bourbons in the country, and we're growing at breakneck speed. And So the select will more than likely always be a blend for the foreseeable future. And then we will have, we had our family recipe that we put out, which was a 6-year-old this year. But we didn't have a whole lot because we didn't, and we started out making just a barrel or two. Well, when we first started, it was a barrel or two a week. And then we went to, a barrel a day and then a couple barrels a day. So we didn't have a tremendous amount of old whiskey. We really, about 2 years ago, we upped our production to where we were actually producing, more than a handful of barrels a week.
Do you ever guys have cask strength Yellowstone, like without the downproofing it at all?
I'm sorry?
Do you guys ever offer a cask strength?
We offer our barrel picks. And so our barrel picks are at 102, 109, or 115.
Gotcha.
So we don't have a true barrel proof, but we do allow the customer to choose the proof that they're going to have. And that's really a great way to do it because it really zeroes in on that particular barrel. And barrels, some barrels shine at 102, some at 109, and some at 115. Very few shine across the board. And everybody always comes in thinking they're going to put 115, but we do probably about 25% the 102, and then split with just a little bit more to the 115, but pretty split even after that.
What's the entry level of your own to Lux when you guys do the blend? Like
when we do into the barrel, or when you
do the barrel, when you're putting it in, yeah.
So our barrel entry proof is 109.
109.
Yeah, and we do a few at 125 as well, just in case, just so that we can keep some
consistency of the flavor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
so do you so like when the Lux and your guys, do you proof it down first, then blend it, or do you put it all together, then add water to it to proof it down afterwards?
We proof it down afterwards.
Afterwards, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what Lux Row puts theirs in at. I believe it's 125.
125. Okay.
Yes, but Limestone puts ours in at 110.
110. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, what is the char level on your core?
We are number 3.
Number 3, and and how for how long is it yard season? Your staves?
Oh, they're air dried and over a year.
Over a year, okay.
Yeah.
And is it independent stave company or
independent stave? But we're getting them from Missouri. For where they make their craft barrels.
Craft barrels.
Because they have in Missouri they make both bourbon barrels and wine barrels. And wine barrels take a lot more time and a lot more attention to. So they have what they call a craft series that they make, which is a little bit better barrel in Missouri, even though the independent stave is right around the corner from us.
Yeah. And the mash from your distillery, is it high rye mash or it mimics the mash?
It's 13%. So that's 13%. Right on the cusp of that high rye. High rye is about 15%. So we're close, but no cigar.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Todd, what is that?
What do you mean?
Yes. Oh no, I saw some bottle in your hands. So I was.
Agua.
Oh, agua.
Yeah, gotta have that water.
Yeah, and I mean, a little bit of water opens it up. I usually just drink things neat with maybe a drop or two of water, but I pretty much drink most of my whiskeys neat.
Yeah,
and for me, this, like I said, this is just very approachable, very easy drinking whiskey. 93 proof. Makes a great old fashioned. There's some citrus notes in there that I think work really well with the citrus in the old fashioned. Love those grassy notes work well with the citrus and the old fashioned. Um, so
Actually, I love. I found out Yellowstone makes your the Select makes for great Godfather.
okay,
Oh, I loved it in my Godfather. I tried it once and I was like, one of the best whiskeys for Godfather. Yeah,
okay, I'm not familiar with that. So what
yeah.
is that?
Godfather is a couple of egg yolks, and it's Manhattan, almost like Manhattan with egg yolks in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I think you mean egg whites.
egg whites,
Oh,
right?
sorry,
Yeah.
egg whites. Oh, sorry, egg whites. Egg whites. I'm sorry.
I was
Yeah,
like,
egg
unless
whites.
it's a breakfast drink after having too much bourbon, I'm pretty sure it's egg whites.
Oh, sorry, egg whites.
I knew what you were talking. I knew what you meant. I hoped I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
So
know. Maybe he's onto something. Who knows? You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Who was it? Which president had a shot? It was Truman.
Yeah.
Had a shot of old granddad every morning with his breakfast.
uh-huh. Oh yeah.
That's it. That's in my coffee every morning.
So
And just a little bit about Yellowstone. You know, it has been around continuously for 150 years, continuously on the market. You could get a prescription for Yellowstone during Prohibition.
Oh, wow.
So one of the few bourbons that have been continuously sold for 150 years.
I did not know that.
They closed the distillery in 1992, and that's when the brand was transferred to Luxco, and it became a non-distiller producer, but still on the shelf until we took over and started to blend ours in as well. And we opened with it in 2015.
So, but was the Yellowstone brand name always with your family, or you had to?
It was sold out of our family in 1944
Mm-hmm.
and sold to the Thompson family at Glenmore.
Glenmore.
And Glenmore had it up until very early 90s, and they sold it to United Distillers. And right after United bought Yellowstone, Glenmore, they merged with Guinness, became Diageo, and Diageo didn't want to have anything to do with bourbon, shut the plant down, and sold off all the brands. So that's when Heaven Hill and Luxco, and I believe Sazerac got a few of the old, Stitzel brands and Yellowstone brands, all the United Distiller brands.
And the original recipe is the same as the one you're using today.
That comes off of my grandfather's notes. Yes.
Okay.
And I was also able to talk to Buddy Thompson just about a couple years before he passed away, and we discussed the mash bills, and he said that was the mash bill that they had used as well.
So and now you have international footprint, right? With Yellowstone, you're pretty much available in many countries outside of the U.S.
We are. It's hard to keep track of how many because we sell to brokers who then sell to different countries. But we're definitely in Canada, the UK, France.
Actually,
Germany,
Actually, somebody shared a screenshot of a menu from Singapore, and I saw Yellowstone there.
Yeah, I think we're in Singapore. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to go to Singapore next year.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, Singapore and Australia next year.
Mm-hmm. Could we move on to the next one? Minor Case. That's my favorite.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. And so, just a little history about Minor Case. So, Minor Case is named after my great grandfather, and that is Minor Case Beam. And he was Jim Beam's first cousin. And they both had distilleries before Prohibition. And Minor died. He was the patriarch of that generation. He was the oldest of that generation. and he died right after Prohibition ended, so never opened another distillery. My grandfather continued as a master distiller. I always say our family were like the nomads. So when you hear there was a beam at Four Roses, there was a beam at Maker's Mark, there was a beam at Stitzelweller, there was a beam at Michner's, there was a beam at Yellowstone, and many other distilleries that aren't around anymore. That was all our family. The Jim Beam line kind of stayed with Jim Beam. So we were all those random beams that you hear at different distilleries. So Minor Case was the distiller who taught all them how to distill. So he was a great distiller in his day. So wanted to honor him. Yes, sir.
And was there a Minor Case brand pre-prohibition, or it's your?
No, his brand before Prohibition was Old Trump.
Oh, Old Trump. Okay.
Yes, that was his.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's. Oh yeah, and I remember there's this big plaque of it in your distillery. I remember seeing Old Trump. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So
Okay.
that was his brand back when Jim Beam was making Old Tub, Minor was making Old Trump. So
Hilarious.
yeah, you can't make it up.
And the recipe for Minor Case is same as Old Trump. I mean, you have pretty much the same.
No, this is actually Indiana rye
Mhm.
that we finish in the sherry cask.
And the sherry cask is from Ohio, right?
From Myers Winery in Ohio. It's Myers 44. It's actually an American cream sherry.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and I think we're the only one who finishes in a cream sherry cask. I really like the finish that I think it works really well with the rye.
Mhm.
It's 51% rye. You know, most of the ryes coming out of Indiana are 75 to 95% rye. This one is 51% rye, 45% corn, 4% malt. So that's almost a high rye bourbon. You know, if the rye and the corn were switched, it would be a high rye bourbon. So
High rye
it's
bourbon,
right,
okay.
right on the cusp in between. But it is definitely a rye, and it's 2-year rye. We are moving it to a 4-year rye.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And
Yeah.
how soon?
Should start this first quarter of next year.
And same with a cream cherry finish.
Same with sherry cask finish. Just a little richer from being 4 years, and it also helps us avoid some of the European issues that we were having with a 2-year whiskey. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
And,
because if they're a
and,
3-year minimum for their whiskey,
Yeah. And are you going to dial up the proof too, or keeping it at 90?
90 proof
Okay.
for now. Yeah.
You don't offer a Minor Case for barrel programs, right? Barrel picks?
Stay tuned.
Oh, okay.
But that may be something coming down the works.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
When you change this to a 4-year, will the bottle change so people know that it's different?
No, we're actually only thing we're going to do is drop the age statement on the back.
Okay. Now, if you let's say you do offer them as barrel picks, would you be able to do cask strength?
That we haven't determined that yet. I know that for whatever the way Luxco is set up, it's hard for them to do a true cask strength.
Now, if, say, hypothetically, you do offer them as barrel picks, would you offer them as cask strength or still 90 proof?
We would probably do something more like the line of the way we do our other casks, where the people could choose between a proof range.
So, how likely are we going to see Minor Case 4-year-old by end of this year?
By the end of this year?
Yeah,
No.
in a couple of months? No? Okay.
No, it'd be the first quarter of next year.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe even the proof options, Yellowstone, more like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 115, 102, or whatever the other proof was.
Right.
Yeah.
109, 102, 109, 115. But we wouldn't. If we did anything, see this label, we squeaked in when the TTB was a little bit more lax on certain things, and so we're right now. If we were to change anything on the label other than just drop the age statement, we would have to. It would have to say rye whiskey, straight rye whiskey finished in sherry casks, all one font, all one, one size.
Okay.
And so we don't want to do too much because we love the label, and
It's a beautiful bottle and label, yeah.
and we can keep it if we don't change it. But if we do any changes, other than just drop that age statement, then we'll have to change the label.
And how much of cream sherry is left at the end of? How much do you leave in the barrel, the sherry, before you fill your distill?
They're wet barrels, but they're not tremendous.
Soaked.
I don't know if you know Paul Lux, but he runs.
Paul, yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to leave much in the barrel.
Okay.
Do you charge the sherry? Do they char the sherry when they put it in, or it's just not a char at all?
The
sherry cask.
Sherry cask is actually an ex-bourbon barrel. So
so it's already charred, and then they put a sherry in it. Okay.
So they take ex-bourbon barrels, put their cream sherry in it. It actually sits outside on the yard in Cincinnati.
Wow.
In the weather for 4 to 5 years, and then they dump them, and then we get them.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's awesome.
So it's ex-bourbon, ex-sherry.
One thing I've always appreciated about minor case is the finish does not overwhelm the underlying spirit. That's one reason why I've been very kind of loyal to that brand, because it's one of the best finishes I've tried. As in, wherein the finish is not, it lets the spirit shine through.
Well, thank you, and that's what I try to do with all my anything that I finish in the barrel. And we do finishes a lot of times with the limited editions, but I just want to try to complement the existing whiskey. I don't want to really cover it up.
And what's the name of that company that does the cream sherry again?
Myers Winery.
Myers, it's very. I was going to visit. Paul had invited me. I was planning to visit, but then he had a baby coming and stuff.
Yeah, but it's the largest winery in Cincinnati. It's the oldest and largest winery in Cincinnati. It's pretty big, and they've been making the cream sherry forever. It was actually John F. Kennedy's favorite after dinner drink. So served in the White House and at state dinners in his administration, the Myers 44.
Okay.
So this is almost like a Scotch process.
Well, similar. And, I find a lot of people who drink Scotch like this because I think the sherry is a familiar note.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And it pairs pretty much with anything. I've even paired it with paired minor case with ice cream. Really, it's all the right notes. So I've tried minor case with savory, sweet, everything, and it really goes down well.
I particularly like it when it's very hot outside because it's just a really light, fruity whiskey.
Oh yeah,
really easy to drink. On a warm day, where sometimes, some of the limited editions that are a little bit more, have a little more depth and a little heavier, or on hot days, I don't find them as refreshing as something that's kind of light and fruity.
The nose does not match the flavor profile. I have to say though, the nose, he gives off more bourbon.
Corey, do you have anything to add?
Light, but then when you taste it, it's a complete different take.
Where do you source your water from?
All of our water is Lebanon municipal water up there in Lebanon, which is comes through limestone aquifers and things. So we had it tested when we first opened the distillery. It was very high in calcium, and hit all the notes that we were looking for. So we're really fortunate in that area of Kentucky that we have, just
Now, have you personally tried the 4-year minor case yet?
I've tried some. I haven't tried the finished with the sherry yet, completely finished. We haven't pulled it quite yet.
Stephen, what is happening to the liquids in the quarter cask that are sitting in that outside? You have that caravan
Oh,
style
yeah,
warehouse.
the experimental cask. In the 15 gallons. Those we're pretty much also sold through. We're holding some that for people who bought them and we're bottling them out.
Oh, okay.
So and then we aren't continuing that right now. Smaller casks.
But none of that goes into your limited edition, or none of those, right?
No. Those were all independent. They were all bottled with Limestone Branch bottles.
Okay.
With the Limestone Branch label.
Okay.
And just different little things we did. Everything.
Have you personally tried the 4-year minor case yet?
I've tried it, but it is still we still haven't pulled it as a finished product yet. That's why I say
I'm very interested to try that.
First quarter of next year.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think now, and so we're looking at what spring release of the 4-year-old.
Spring release. Yeah, we probably
Okay, I
won't
look
bottle
forward
it
to
until late of the first quarter, and so by the time it goes through the system, it'll be late spring, early summer before it comes out.
Is the
And like I
intention?
said, I'm sorry.
No, I said, is the intention to, as Yellowstone grows and the brand grows, to extend that aging to then maybe 6 years and grow that individual bottling as you guys grow, or is it 4 years is kind of the plan on that, and then
the 4 and 7, and then any of our releases that we do will be at least 6 years old. Of our bourbons will be 6 years old, or older.
Can a finished whiskey get a bottle in bond designation? I don't know about.
No. As a matter of fact, once you finish a whiskey, it's no longer a whiskey. It's a distilled spirit specialty, DSS.
Yeah.
So that's why you cannot put an age statement on a finished whiskey. We'd love to put an age statement on our limited editions, but we're not allowed to because it falls under that finished whiskey, and that's a distilled spirit specialty.
Okay.
Which is kind of a catch-all category. That just if it doesn't fall into anything else, it falls into that category.
Okay. Should we move on to the limited edition?
Sure. So then, as you might know, that every year we come out with a different limited edition. So this is this year's. There we go. And it's where I get to play around with either blending older whiskeys or different finishes. And this one is finished in Marsala wine casks. So I was a little hesitant when I was doing the experimenting with the different casks. I was a little hesitant, even though in my experiments I like the Marsala wine cask the best out of that group. I was a little hesitant because Marsala often doesn't have a great connotation in the U.S., although in Italy it has a great, there's some great Marsala wines. But I ultimately decided that it was very nice and that I would just let the whiskey speak for itself. This is a blend of 7 and 12-year-old bourbon that's finished for about 4.5 months in Marsala wine casks.
Well, I'm not very familiar with Marsala Superiore. So how different is that from Marsala, the regular Marsala?
It's and I may be wrong on this, but it's just a little bit of extra age.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you decide on your cask for limited edition? Do you have a roadmap for the next 5 years that these are the casks, or you?
We don't have them 5 years out for sure. As a matter of fact, I'm still trying to source for next year.
Okay.
We're having trouble sourcing some of the things I want. But we use barrel brokers, and so there's we kind of use, they kind of tell me what's out there, and then I can choose from there. And then I'll what I normally do, the way I start to decide if I'm even going to consider a cask or not, is like I would go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of Marsala wine or Amarone or Armagnac, and just put a little bit with our 7-year-old whiskey and see how those notes are playing. And if they're working well together, then we'll go ahead and get a barrel or two and do some experimenting, and then move on to barreling and full production.
Yeah, because actually, though I'm not drinking today, I had a sample when I was, and I found this one to be a slightly more winier than the last Amarone.
And I think that's with the Marsala wine carried over a little bit more. So,
okay,
yeah, I'm going to say that this is a sweeter than I only had the 20 up to the 2020 in this,
which was Armagnac, which was
I love it. Oh yeah,
that was my favorite, and this one's sweeter compared to that.
Todd, I think you're finding some notes. I can see that on your face. You're kind of trying to.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, this is very yeah.
To be honest, this is the first limited edition from Yellowstone I've had. And the Marsala, I think you kind of hit the same thing that you were going after with the minor case, where the sherry finishes there. But the Marsala does come through a little bit more just because of the nature of it. But this is lovely.
Yeah, I never have more than a 15 ml shot. When I was filling up the bottles, I had a good 45 ml shot. I loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, this is definitely good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I would rate this close second. I mean, probably close for very tough between this and Armagnac.
Yeah,
Amarone was a little bolder. This one is more. This one is very fine. It's like a fine. Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely more wine notes to this.
Yeah.
But I think the Marsala just kind of.
And I love the nose on this one. It's more fruitier. I mean. Do you guys feel the same way? I don't know, because I'm not drinking today, so I'm sorry.
No, yeah, it is definitely more fruity forward. It's almost like your after dinner drink, kind of thing.
And I kind of look at this as one of those that you have and you sip and contemplate life or have a cigar or
Yeah, cigar would be perfect.
Yeah,
with this.
I was going to ask the cigar people here if how would this go pair with cigar? I don't smoke.
This is the one. This is the one.
Yeah. You could dip the end of this and then smoke. That'd be perfect.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I loved it. I mean, I tried it with my filet mignon, and this is so good. I mean, this is.
Oh.
Steven, have you guys, you always do the wine on these special casks, or do you do, special barrels? Like a lot of the other ones are doing those Maserati. I'm going to kill that oak from Japan. But it's like Maserati barrel, whatever that is.
Right. That's in the works as well. So
sweet.
We have some different things, but yes. So and they're not easy to come by. I think everybody wants them. So
those sweet notes at least hit you first in terms of smelling it. Like, I don't know if that's the wine or something else.
It's funny. The nose for me is the taste of the minor cask. I don't know
Matt,
why, but the nose.
Oh,
It was
sorry.
like a sweet nose, but that reminds me of the minor cask taste. of the
So,
funk.
so Steve, you said there's 7, 14, and 15-year-old.
And there's some 12 in there as well.
Oh, 7, 12. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, um, could we know the proportion? As in,
It's yeah, proprietary, but it's
yeah, but honestly,
majority is obviously 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think because of the finish, it kind of feels more like 12, 13-year-old.
A lot of that comes from the wine notes as well. That
Wine
help
notes.
with that
And
finish.
are these casks from Portugal? Where do you? I mean, are they? You
They
got
were
it from your
from Italy.
Italy. Sorry. Oh, yeah, Marsala.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is this just
Are
me?
they, and these are straight wine? Or are they charred? Or they were they?
No, they
used
were
to
straight
something else?
wine casks.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
were they charred? Or
No.
they? No. Okay.
No.
Well, previous to making the Marsala, they were probably charred.
Probably charred.
But,
Right,
but
but
not, you
charred-
guys didn't char them after.
Or
Right.
toasted, right?
Toasted. Yeah.
Toasted is probably
correct.
where they were.
Is this just me? I mean, Marsala is such a distinctive wine. I don't know of another product that's used those barrels as a finish. Is that just me being a novice and not knowing, or is this
Well,
pretty unique here?
Oh, no, there are very few whiskeys finished in Marsala. I think
Yeah.
probably a handful. I haven't heard many either. Marsala is just about gaining notoriety actually.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of another one.
Yeah, Marsala finish.
Bull Run has done one, I think.
Oh, Bull Run has done one.
Hmm. I might.
Okay.
Trying to figure if they did or not, but I thought they did. I could be wrong. But they're a source, so.
So, Stephen, if the Yellowstone recipe is as old as you say it is, which is fascinating to me, do you have a personal stash somewhere of ancient bottles of Yellowstone that you pull out and you compare to what's being made today?
You know, I have it. I have some from the like the 40s and 50s and 60s, and it is that older whiskey that that has been kind of elusive for modern distillers. It is that kind of the Luden's cough drop in a good way, cherry note, deep, rich cherry note. And actually, it's probably a little bit more like the Marsala cask finish than a more modern whiskey. But we try to pay tribute to the past with heirloom grains and the yeast that my grandfather had and the recipe. We do open fermentation. We do open cooks. We don't do any pressure cooking, and then of course do pot stills as well. But it's really for me. I'm not going to try to chase that. I just want to make it the best that I can make at this particular moment in time for me.
Is it hard to kind of replicate that past? Because I have what is it? A 62 and a 58 that I have open of a bean. And like trying to taste the modern to back then, there's what is missing that everyone's just trying to find.
And that's the $1 million question.
Question, isn't it? It's like, was the process, or was it the wheat back in that day?
Is it the water? Like, what's
the grain,
different?
the water,
Or a combo?
A combo.
It wasn't so clean back then that it had a little rustic to it.
Yeah, I heard there were quite a few things used to swim in, not so much in the mash tubs and things. But, that's one of those elusive things. And I've talked to Mike Beach about it, and the wood was different, obviously back then, just techniques but it's really difficult to get that, but it's definitely distinctive notes from those older whiskeys.
Yeah.
And one of the other things too is a lot of those older whiskeys, it may say 4 or 6 year old on it, but they had, older whiskeys in there as well, 8 and 10 and 12-year-old whiskey.
So they were blending, even though they would say
they were blending older whiskeys. Yes.
Okay.
Especially depending on what era it was, obviously right after Prohibition they weren't, but they started to have excess stock,
Okay.
and so they were blending that, and I think it was Shinley maybe that had when the Korean War started, thought that it was going to be another world war and ramped up production. And
Shinley,
with a lot of excess whiskey. It actually had to have the way the bonding was, had to have that changed in order so that he didn't have to pull everything out. But so they were blending older whiskeys as well.
Okay.
Stephen, pardon my ignorance. Is Marsala cask as big as sherry butt, or it's a smaller size cask?
They were bigger. They were close to the sherry butt size.
Okay. So how many bottles have you released this year of Ellie?
Gosh, we did about 60,000.
Oh, and they're still hard to find. Okay, 60.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
About 12 of them
I've
in Virginia.
Yeah, but that's
in Utah. Surprisingly, I found one.
Yeah, there's not a lot when you divide that up between all the states and territories and overseas. There's not, that.
Okay.
That
last year, last year you had much smaller release. I think 20,000, right? The last limited, yeah. Okay, so interesting. Yeah. So
one of that was because the sherry butts the Marsala wine casks were bigger than we had anticipated.
Okay. Oh, that's good. No, Mike. So could we be privy to what's next year's limited edition going to be finished in?
Like I said, I'm still trying to. I'm not 100% sure.
What are our options? What might it be?
We can keep a secret. We can totally keep a secret.
Facebook is amazing at that, I hear.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to stay tuned because I'm not 100% sure yet. And I want to, because
Any plans of offering limited edition for a special pick or something?
No, it would be too difficult because for one thing, the limited edition, like when I'm doing the limited edition, I get samples every week for when to pull it out of the cask.
Okay.
And so it'd be hard to work with people to get that because you have to pull them out of the cask, right at a certain time.
Possibly I'll be aiming for a minor case, the 4-year-old maybe next year.
Right. And when we do the minor case, it will probably cast. If we do a cask pick, it'll probably be straight rye whiskey because again, for that same reason, to if you put them in the cask to finish, you have to hit them just right to pull them out.
Oh, okay.
So, it'd be hard to coordinate that with barrel picks.
Okay, so okay. But will it still be the straight rye? Will it still be minor case, or will be something else?
It will be minor case.
Minor case.
It will be minor case. Yes. So and then we do have.
Chad, any observation?
It seems like. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the barrel proof question that keeps coming up. Is it an issue with Lux Row, their processes that prevents you from doing that, or
from offering a barrel proof? Yes.
So it's not a personal preference of yours.
Right. That's more of a process. So.
Okay. How prevalent is that? Like, how many people ask you that question?
We get that asked quite often, especially in barrel picks, but for right now, we're not doing a barrel proof. So
Okay.
that's one of the things with, when you have partners,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a give and take as well.
Yeah. No, but you're hitting all the right notes with your limited edition now. The last three have been spectacular. I mean, one better than the other. So
What was the proof of this limited edition?
It's 101.
101?
Yes.
yeah, it drinks lower than 101 actually.
Yeah. It
Okay.
drinks
Yeah.
lower than 101, and I think the wine cask gives it a certain viscosity and weight to it that kind of balances against some of that before we get into the heat category kind of thing. And I think it kind of pushes down that feeling of proof because it's just got a nice richness to it.
Actually, I'm drinking out of my one of the sample bottles of the Marsala. So mine's 129 proof.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we know they make it now. Now it's a matter of just getting there and getting it from them.
Yeah.
So, Steven, so I have, because the older bottles were they always 101? Have you always done that proof on every limited edition?
Our first limited edition in 2015 was 105.
Okay.
And then they've been 101 ever since.
Okay.
And that was because it had been 105 years since Minor Case had closed this distillery. So
There's the unicorn there, the 105, if anybody can find it.
Okay.
So Stephen, I got to ask you, put you on the spot a little bit. Don't worry, it's nothing too crazy. Being from kind of bourbon royalty ancestry between the Beams and the Dance, if you had to pick some older bottlings, which way would you lean, Beam or Dan?
Oh, wow. I'll tell you, some of the old Dant that came out of Gethsemane, Kentucky in the 1940s and 50s is just spectacular. It's you look and it says Gethsemane, Kentucky, and it is really some of my favorite whiskeys, really some of my favorite whiskey, period.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's. So, do you have any of those samples?
Pretty good.
I think I have a label. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they had much lesser bottles of limited edition release this year, but with 60,000 and still the secondary is going crazy.
I have a candle.
Finish with the first limited edition.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Oh,
But
wow.
that's that was a spectacular whiskey.
That's a good looking label right there.
Yeah.
We need more packaging like that. Go back to how it used to be.
No, even Minor Case has a very retro feel. That's what I like about Minor Case. It has a very.
We should go
Yeah,
back to those
we were
nice
trying to
porcelain
do something.
decanters, though, too. I got a good
Yeah.
Vegas one.
Todd,
Good bean.
you're muted. I see you talking, and I'm like, no one hears you.
The win for me today is learning about 4-year Minor Case. Like that's my takeaway from today. I'm psyched.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is great.
Yeah, lovely whiskeys.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have always tried to make what I like and hope other people like it as well. So I'm glad you guys.
Yeah, Steve, I always had this question. Before 2011, were you with some another distillery or were you doing something else altogether?
No, my degree was actually in landscape architecture. I graduated school, my the bourbon industry was kind of starting to hit the skids. There were a lot of plant closures and layoffs, and so there really wasn't any. Didn't seem like it was a good bet. So I was always interested in horticulture, and so I did the landscape architecture and practiced landscaping for quite a while. Always kept coming back to opening a distillery. But in the 1980s, the laws were not conducive to opening to small distilleries. Everything was geared for the big distilleries. Everything was geared for. I think at that time you still had to have a government gauger on site. So I'm not even sure how that would have worked on a smaller scale. But so it was, and it would have been cost prohibitive to even try to advertise. I was looking kind of at Maker's Mark at that time, and I was thinking, God, how much does an ad cost in the Wall Street Journal? Or how much does an ad cost in Playboy or whatever magazines that they were doing at that time? It was, cost prohibitive. And then, people became more in tune with craft beers and more in tune with where things were coming from. And then the whole advent of the internet and social media and being able to reach out and reach customers and talk about your products became much more accessible for, the average person. So.
Yeah. And what about Paul? Was he?
Paul was in the restaurant business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he was on board, right at the beginning with there in 2011. It was just, I told him as we need to, I said the time is right, and we need to it's either now or never to get involved. And we got involved, we had no idea what bourbon was going to become. There was it was growing and there was interest, but because I started this about in 2008, it was 2011 by the time we opened. So there was interest, but it was not anything like the explosion that happened in, 2012, 13, 14. It just really exploded in the demand and things. So, but I say our family's been making bourbon for 200 years, and we make bourbon in good times and bad times, and demand or no demand, we still make bourbon.
Wonderful.
It's just
I mean, it helps to have a legacy. When you're starting out something like whiskey business, it always helps to have a long list, big history behind you.
Yeah. Well, it helped to have, my grandfather's notes, helped to have, aunts and uncles in the business. I had friends, I tell you, who helped tremendous amount were friends whose family had been moonshiners because they actually distilled at a scale similar to what we were distilling at when we started. We had the engineers come in from, some of the big distilleries, and they just kind of scratched their head, at a 600-gallon fermentation. It's like it was foreign to them. But some of the people whose family had moonshine, that was kind of right up their alley, and they knew exactly where we were at. So it was they were very helpful.
So did anyone of your generation and other than your brother distilling with other distilleries?
No, my grandfather did. My aunts and uncles, cousins. I had a lot of cousins that worked for Beam and Barton and Heaven Hill. All the big guys. Four Roses, but I had one brother, two sisters. No one other than my brother and I have been. I think my nephew's, maybe doing something. So, and he helped out with the distillery before, prior to the Luxco and MVP deal. So why don't you have a brand? I mean, why don't you have whiskey with Limestone or your distillery name on, as one of your brand extensions? Well, we do with the experimental things. So we do have this. Okay. So, and we don't want to dilute. We don't want to we want to stay focused on where we're at. I don't want to get too too many different things going on.
And just in case you guys didn't know, every purchase, $1 from every purchase goes to maintenance of national parks.
Yeah, we donate money back to the National Parks Conservation Association, who's a park advocacy group, and they do everything from boots on the ground. I've been out with them taking down barbed wire for the pronghorn sheep migration, to they lobby Congress, so they run the whole gamut. And we donate money back from bottle sales from them, and have since 2016, I think. And then this year with the flood, we donated $25,000 directly to Yellowstone, $25,000 to the communities surrounding Yellowstone. And then the NPCA had a fundraiser in Bozeman and raised right at $50,000, and we matched that. So we donated, in addition to the bottle sales donations, we donated $100,000 for the flood for flood relief there in Yellowstone.
And do you go to Yellowstone pretty often?
I usually am out there any chance I get, anytime I'm invited, but usually a couple times a year I'm out there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. I love it.
Oh yeah, we were there earlier this year. Yeah.
Any holdbacks or anything? I know you're kind of thinking about your next, a whole bunch of other creations, but anything like holding you back or from going forward, or is it just try not to stay loyal to what works?
Well, we want to stay focused on what we're doing. We do have a new launch coming out very in the first quarter, and so that and I can't quite say that yet either, but it'll be out very soon. It'll be we've applied for the label, so as soon as the TTV posts that, it'll be out everywhere, and then I'll talk about it. But that's kind of a new and exciting thing as well. So
is that product leaning traditional or more new school?
It's new school. Yeah, it is definitely new school, and even a whole new category.
Steve, what do you do with the barrels after you're done dumping them?
Everything is under contract, with a wholesaler. So they take all of the barrels from Lux Row, all the barrels from Limestone. So everything goes there, and then they're generally broken down and sent to Scotland.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's where the majority of our barrels go.
I do a rubs that on my side that I do from different distilleries. I take the char out inside of them. So I don't know if you have access to that. I would definitely love to do something personal for you if you like.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll see. I have usually the way we bottle when we dump our barrels, we don't have like like most people have a barrel dump and then they have a screen and things. We dump into stainless steel barrels and then bottle out of the barrel. And so then there's usually some stuff at the bottom. So we might be able to get some of that.
Yeah, if you get any of that, I can make some magic for you.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, this was amazing. I have to run. Thank you so much for your time, though. This is a fantastic experience.
Well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate you coming in and joining us. Really, I'm always appreciative when people come and listen to me talk about bourbon.
Anytime. I will be at your sounding board anytime, sir. Anytime at all.